Step right into the chaotic world of Gearaholics, where gas isn't just a syndrome, it's a lifestyle. Discover why it's a siren's call for video creators and given straightforward steps to steer clear of its clutches. Your roadmap to sidestep the gear trap and elevate your video content awaits.
Welcome to Content Creators Connect. Here we are, all about connecting with the 3 C's, connecting with others via video, content development that builds your personal brand, and we are creators sharing our experiences despite our distance.
And let me try that again. The C3 team member this evening is Dori, known to everyone as DSpence, is using her superpowers to install confidence in those around her and helping others become experts in their own adventures.
So, gentlemen, I have a really important question for both of you. Have either of you ever suffered from gas? Wait. Before you start thinking that I have absolutely lost my mind, I am talking about the faded gear acquisition syndrome we often hear about in the video content creator community. Are either of you gearaholics? I'm going to shoot over to Manny first.
I'm going to say no. When I think of that word, and maybe I'm misunderstanding the whole thing, but when I'm thinking of that word, I'm going to say no, because when I think of that word, I think of always acquiring different mics, different laptops, different cameras, different whatever I can get in an electronic way for my live streaming. So at this moment, I'm going to say no if I'm understanding where we're going. What about you, Kevin?
Well, I wouldn't say suffered in quotation marks, but I fully was aware of it when I first started out streaming. And I wanted to make sure that I was actually starting and not relying on not having the right equipment as an excuse not to get started. So, but since then, I am fully aware. Yes, I'm a gearaholic, as Dori likes to put it, and I do acquire different gadgets and different gear to help enhance my stream as I go along. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what Dori has to say today with regards to that and see if I truly am affected by gas or not. So if this is the type of content that you would like to see more of, please consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell so you get notified when we go live.
Well, I am really excited to talk about tonight's topic because I am not going to lie, I am the gearaholic. And I think the first step is in admitting it. So without any semblance of pause, I am going to jump right into talking about gear acquisition syndrome, otherwise known as GA.S. The first thing, people might say, what the heck are you even talking about? Well, GA.S is basically, for all intents and purposes, this unrelenting urge that you have to buy new equipment. And the key is whether or not you actually need it. And a lot of times the purchase of the equipment is in hopes of boosting your creative energy or just overall improving your craft. It's this insatiable need to kind of hoard this gear. And oftentimes it's just getting stuff for the sake of saying that you're getting stuff. And one of the biggest things that hits home for me is the idea that many use GA.S as a means of procrastination from putting their content out there. And I will say, I have suffered from this, and I know many others have suffered from this in terms of why they just procrastinate and prolong their streaming journey. There is some science behind it, though. So the nerd in me really loves this. Now, I will reference an article that I found from Joshua Sarignana, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. And there will be a link dropped in the comments to the article itself. He talks about the fact that G.A.S is involved with the brain's reward and stress system. And he talks a lot about the release of dopamine and how dopamine is a stress relieving hormone. And it's also a hormone that gets released when we feel joy. So one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that when we feel reward, that equates to dopamine being released in our brain. And when we feel stress, opposite hormones are released. And so what do we have built into us? We have this fight or flight system built in. And one of the things that we try to do is we try to find a way to decrease the likelihood of harm from stress. And we do that by getting rid of this block of inhibition that we have. So we have an impulse inhibition blocker. And I'm not going to get into the super giant science of it. It can be found in the article. But basically, the more stress we're under, the more likely we are to take risks and do things that we would normally inhibit in, as far as impulse behavior. And buying gear is, in fact, a giant impulse behavior. So we want to seek that really quick high that restores that feeling of reward in our system. Now, I talked a lot about stress just now. I mentioned it probably 6 or 7 times. And one of the things that I think all three of us can attest to, and many of our friends out there in the creator community, creators feel a huge amount of stress because there's a lot of uncertainty to being a creator. There's a lot of question marks that sit behind building content, putting ourselves out there, taking risks with audience, and just putting ourselves out there in the public eye. And so when we want to create a project, we want to continue with a project, if there's any level of uncertainty, it increases our stress level. And we need to find a way to release that stress. And a lot of times, G.A.S is it. It's that really quick relief from stress that we get in buying that new piece of gear. And that new piece of gear also brings with it the promise, and I'm using air quotes for people that are only listening, the promise of better content, better production, better engagement with the audience. It's a trap. It really is. It's a giant trap. And just waiting on the gear is another way to just postpone the project. So, along with the science of it, we have to understand that G.A.S is a habit. It is a habit that, with some practice, we can break. Now, one of the other things that I have quickly learned is that there are 3 components to a habit. There is a trigger, there is a routine, and there is a reward. So the trigger is anything that puts the idea of purchasing that gear out in front of you. So for G.A.S in particular, it can be things like forums, technology threads, gear threads, even browsing gear sites like Teenage Photo. Not a sponsor, just throwing an idea out there. Discussion boards, ads, even groups that you belong to where other content creators congregate online, the conversation will 9 times out of 10 eventually turn to, what gear are you using? And so that creates that situation of FOMO, It creates a situation of not feeling like you're leveling up or meeting, your competition, if you will. So all of those can be triggers that generate this habit. The next thing to identify is the routine. What exactly do you do when that trigger hits you? So it boils down to, how can you get the gear once the trigger has been enacted? I can't stream until I'll sell this to make up the cost for. It becomes almost like this internal bargain in your head. If I do this, then this will result. And that result can be anything depending on the individual. So the routine is actually, how do you carry out buying of the gear once that trigger is pulled? And then the last thing is the reward. Well, I got 2 words for you: instant gratification. You buy a piece of gear, your brain releases dopamine, you feel rewarded, you're like, I can do this, and you feel a little bit of a slight superpower boost, until, sadly, like with any addiction, it's short-lived and it wears off. So that's how you develop a habit of G.A.S, with those 3 steps. So now that you understand that you have a habit, you can't just magically snap your fingers and say, go away, habit. It's just not going to happen. But you can do things that help you break that habit. So the thing that you need to understand first is that the trigger will always remain for you. Unless you completely cut off discussion boards and websites and, creator threads cold turkey, the trigger is always going to be there. There's always going to be someone talking about or showcasing this new piece of gear that they have. The key is focusing on the routine, replacing the routine with something else. So you can change the self-talk behind the routine aspect of it. Once you identify it, then understand the trigger is still there, but changing the actual purchase of the gear, that's where you have to focus your attention. So maybe change your self-talk from, I need this, or I will be better with this, to, how is it really different than what I already have? And I think the biggest thing that we can do as tech creators, content creators, is understand that there is always, and I mean always, going to be some new shiny piece of technology. It happens all the time. I'm a computer teacher. I have computer equipment in my lab. Is there better equipment out there available? Yes. Does the equipment that currently sits in my classroom, does it meet the needs of my students? Yes. So those are the questions that you have to ask yourself, and that's where you have to kind of change up that self-talk just a little bit and understand that having a new piece of equipment doesn't make yours bad, and it certainly doesn't make it obsolete. And one of the things that I want to really stress is equipment does not make you a master of your craft. You do. It has absolutely nothing to do with any of the equipment around you. It is you that makes you the master of your craft. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. Alexa, studio off. Oh my gosh, I am 10 times worse of a presenter right now because all of the lights and shiny things behind me turned off. False. So let me talk for a few minutes about my own experiences. I have to tell you, I am in fact a tech junkie. I am. I love to explore new technology for the sake of just geeking out over it. However, I do also admit that being a tech junkie has also created these triggers in me where I feel like if I don't have a certain piece of equipment, I'm not measuring up to others in the industry. So that is a trigger for me. It is because I'm a tech junkie and I'm constantly researching it, I am always exposed to new gear. So I have suffered in the past from just going, oh man, so I'm going to just do a trade. I'm going to sell this and I'm going to get this because it's a little bit newer, it's a little bit shinier, it's a little bit faster. And I have honestly done that. But for me, the biggest issue has been in using G.A.S as a means of procrastination. And I'm admitting it to all of you right here. I have done it where I have felt like I have not measured up. I am not as good as others out there in the industry. And so I feel like if I just add one more camera, if I just do this, if I just do that, it's going to make me better at what I do. And here's what I have come to realize, because that reward was false. It was a total false flag. I had to realize that my message is far more important than the means by which I delivered it. And it can literally make all of the difference. And one of the biggest things in putting this presentation together that I have come to realize is that some of my most impactful messages to my audience has been when I just prop my phone up on the dashboard of my car because I'm broke down alongside the road and I just needed somebody to talk to. Or a year ago when I lost my sister and I just wanted other people to realize that even when you're going through hard times, there's always someone there to help you through. When I walked into my classroom and the lights were off and I had just my desk light on and I turned the camera on to show all of the baskets and all of the cards and all of the messages that people left for me because they knew how hard it would be for me to walk back in there. They did that for me. And I wasn't here inside my studio with all my flashy lights and all of my gadgets and gizmos. I was just on my phone, just me and you, just talking about something really important. And so it's in those moments that you realize that it's not about any of this stuff. It's about this and this. And maybe sometimes this, when you're demonstrating some magic. And so if you suffer from G.A.S, what can you do? Well, these are some really quick, basic tips. Number one, set a budget for yourself. And if you say, well, I've tried that in the past, DSpence, and it doesn't work. Well, look at step 2. Find somebody who's going to be your accountability partner and have them hold you accountable. And if you really, really, really want to try something, rent equipment, trade with someone, borrow it from someone that you know has been using it. Test it out without opening your wallet. And my last piece of advice is create 2 lists for yourself. You know, we always have those pros and cons lists. I'm suggesting make a must get versus a would be nice list. And how do you decide what's going to go on each? Well, the must get. What is the bare minimum that you need to get started or to continue streaming? What are your current big issues with your production that you need to address? So maybe you have zero light available to you. You stream in a dark room, you can't get any natural light, you need a light. That's on your must get list. Maybe you stream from your phone and people complain that they can't hear you because it's echoey and it's picking up a lot of noise around you. A lav mic, a pair of Bluetooth earbuds that you can use as a microphone. Those would be examples of must-get items. How can you improve your studio build by 1%? If you're looking to improve, just think about 1% changes, not complete overhauls. Will it improve your workflow? Time is money to creators, and if you can do something and you can afford it in your budget, improve your workflow, that's going to improve your time management. That's hopefully going to end up resulting in more cash flow for you. And lastly, on the must get, is there anything that is broken or damaged that you need to replace? If it does not fit on that list, then it is not a must get. It is a would be nice. And in that situation, if you can afford it, great. If it's not a necessity, find a better use of your finances, and you will be absolutely amazed at what you can eventually get when it becomes a must and not a want. And so that is gear acquisition syndrome, otherwise known as G.A.S. And I do know that it is something that runs very rampant in the content creation community. And so I wanted to do my part to discuss it, even briefly, so that you can understand what it is and then hopefully understand how to break that habit if you are, in fact, suffering from it, as I do. And so now that we have looked a little bit deeper into this obsession that costs creators money and sometimes time, I would love to hear your thoughts, guys. Manny, I'm going to kick it over to you first. Oh, you are muted.
Great explanation of the G.A.S syndrome. I have a much better understanding. I still don't think that I suffer from this, but I probably know why. I do have this part of me that wants to kind of buy gadgets, test gadgets, and keep seeing which is better and better. Because here's the truth: I always know there's room for improvement. But my approach has been more like, I'll get it when I can. I'll get it when YouTube pays for itself. When YouTube pays for, not YouTube itself, but the revenue from there pays for that equipment, pays for that camera. I have a camera on my mind that I actually want to get over the next few months, but I still question, do I need it? That's my struggle. It's like, do I really need it? What's wrong with this one right now? What's wrong with adding my phone? So that's where I fight myself, and maybe that's what causes me to not suffer that part. But you hit on a few things that definitely that resonated. Number one, you said this word procrastination. I don't know. Every time I hear that word, I feel like that's my nickname, but it's not because of buying new gear or testing new gear, because I would like to get lost in some of these gear and test my mic over and over. But the only reason why that hit me really is because it's that word that I always feel like it kind of resonates with me. So you almost brought a little PTSD there, like, oh, what else am I forgetting here? But when I get it to but when it comes to my gear, there has been a time or two where I was testing too much and didn't get something done, and that would cause a little procrastination. or a lot of times I keep putting my story together forever. I don't know if that's part of it, because I am messing with different tools, right? And something else that you shared that made me think about, when you were talking about the dopamine, I can definitely see how someone can get a high off of, oh my gosh, this, I cannot wait. I see my son go through, like, he buys stuff, takes it back, buys stuff, sends it back. And it's amazing how many times he'll do that because he can. So he's always like, I thought I was going to like the watch. I didn't like the watch. I thought I was going to like this. I didn't like it. And I know, like, following Kevin of these few years now, and it's like, I see it because I see him as a techie guy. So when I see someone that's techie, I think, what kind of camera you got? What kind of this? But what's great about him is he also wants to do it in a cost-saving manner while he has the best of the best. So with that being said, Kevin, what is your takeaway? Like, where do you come into play when it comes to gas?
Well, I definitely am a Gearaholic. I will not deny that. Being in the IT industry, um, the company that I work for, luckily, I get to play with a lot of this new equipment and see it in a corporate environment. So I know sort of the benefits of it. It's like, yes, I would love to be able to have it for my own personal use, but once again, do I need it? It's like, no, I actually have the equipment that I have. It functions. It's once again, it's all about the message. But what really resonated to me, that's what Dori was explaining, was the idea of setting a budget and dividing the stuff into categories of must-haves versus nice to have. Um, I started streaming, but I didn't let the equipment be a barrier for me to actually get started. Um, when we sort of first got together and started up this channel, I was like very worried, like, what about the camera? What kind of camera am I going to be using? What am I going to have to spend some money to get that? It's like, hey, you have a smartphone. Why not start there? Because it has everything that you need to get started. And then eventually, yeah, save up your money and spend it on a decent camera, and then every year set some budget aside to help improve your streaming, but at a very small rate, as opposed to, like Dory is saying, don't do a big change, just do small improvements, improve it 1%. And with that, I've been able to find a lot of gear that either has been given to me. People don't want it anymore. For instance, like old iPhones. It's like when they upgrade to the newest one, it's like, that has a camera on it that I can use as part of my streaming. Therefore, you can start having a multi-camera production. And hey, I got this device for free. I'm not going out and spending money, but it just happened to fall into my lap. So sort of take and use what you have is sort of my mantra with when it comes to tech, and putting on a decent and engaging stream. But number one thing, you said it over and over again, Dory, is the message that you're sending. It doesn't matter about all the flashy lights that you have. It's the content that is number one. So use get the other equipment just to enhance your message as opposed to being the message.
I couldn't have said it any better myself, Kevin. What an amazing way to wrap things up. So, gas is something that impacts video creators immensely. And in certain circumstances, it can cause creators to stop producing content. If you struggle in finding the confidence to push past this comparison trap, consider checking out a video I did over a year ago. It was episode number 9, entitled Confidence on Camera Getting Started. It was posted August 30th of 2022, and we will drop the link for that down in the comments below.
All right. If you enjoy seeing content like this and you're finding it useful, we would love, love, love if you'd like and subscribe. And sharing our content is also a great way to share the love. Visit our website for information on all the ways that you can connect with us. And it's right over there, linktree.com or linktree/content creators connect. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So also drop down in the comments and let us know what kind of content you would like us to dive into in the future.
My friends, thank you for joining Content Creators Connect, aka C3, tonight as Dori discussed gear acquisition syndrome and how to combat it. What a great job, Dori. We will return in 2 weeks on Sunday, October 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I will be covering how to create and edit your projects with the new YouTube Create app. It is exciting. They just launched this thing in September. And of course, it's still in the early stages. But how exciting, because we always hear, hey, is there any free apps that we can use to edit on our phone? Well, here it is, my friends. We will be multicasting live to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So be sure to join us in 2 weeks. Until then, we urge you to identify and lean into your 3 C's. Start today creating unique content that builds connections and breaks down those barriers. See you in 2 weeks, my friends. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.